So here we are on June, what is this, 26, Friday, June 26, and we have turned it all the way up to 11 for today's Solve SaaSOps Live virtual event, where we get some of the internet's best, most knowledgeable and most geographically diverse and culturally diverse SaaSOps engineers to discuss a topic. And today's topic is going to be ITSM, or IT Service Management, covering platforms that do incident management, problem management, asset management, project management, knowledge management, and change management. So all the different types of management that you can do, from your trouble tickets to planning your network changes, for keeping track of your changes and everything else. And some of the key players in that arena are, of course, the behemoth of ServiceNow, Atlassian's Jira Service Desk, Zendesk Freshservice, which is one of my personal favorites, and then SolarWinds. And a lot of these have started as, on-premise applications and then gone to SaaS-based applications where everything should be. So obviously a lot of these services can be done if you're a small organization, like, Caleb's small company there. A lot of these services can be tracked and managed in a Google form or a spreadsheet. Large organizations that have 100,000 employees might go with something like ServiceNow. But what are the pros and cons? What's worked for us? What would we change? What would we do differently? How do we manage asset management? Surprisingly, a large number of companies don't even bother with asset management. Don't track who has what laptop, which is all should be part of the onboarding and the offboarding process. I will apologize. There is an air compressor in the background. I'm having some construction done. They've obviously filed up their nail gun. So I'll go on mute and let you guys open the floor. Who's got some thoughts on ITSM?
Just a 1 hour session, because it was a lot of stuff.
A lot of management.
A lot of management.
How will we manage to cover all these topics?
We need a tool to work out how we're going to evaluate each one.
How many people on the call actually manage
Dominic,
the management system?
Manage their management systems? We do. That's new.
Who manages the managers?
Exactly.
So
guys
Rose
prefer
wrote a book on how to evaluate those tools. Just saying.
If only somebody
You
did.
can find it on the Better Cloud webpage somewhere.
Yes, I literally wrote the book on it. So.
What do you guys prefer more? Do you prefer more like the project management centric systems, like the Asanas, right, of the world, or more the ticket based systems? Right. I mean, I get like we're gonna have to do both, but like you can kind of use one in lieu of the other in a lot of different instances. Like, which approach do you guys like more? I prefer project management.
I prefer project management.
So we were Jira users from the very get-go, and have adapted Jira into basically every aspect of the company itself, up to and including IT Service Desk. So we took Jira Service Desk and we've adapted it to our help desk team.
You used Jira before Jira Service Desk, though?
Yes.
Yeah, and we use Spoke, which is like barely considered a ticketing app. So when we switched to that, like things really went towards the project management kind of version. What I like about project management tools is they innovate faster. So
That's true. So I wrote a post a couple of months ago, last year sometime, complaining about all my places where I have tasks and assigned tasks and what tools we have, and that sometimes that I get overwhelmed with all these places. And and then I got another recommendation for a new tool, and I didn't take it. But we have service desks with ticketing, we have project management tools, we have Asana, and I'm trying to get all my tasks that either come via email, I'm forwarding them to Asana. So I have at least one list or a sales desk or a service desk tasks that I get assigned to. I get emails and I then pipe them into Asana via the email forwarding. So that's how I keep
I've tried
track of
using
stuff.
Slack for something similar. Like I've really tried to like centralize everything in Slack, but like it's so
Slack
hard.
is not a task management tool. I get so lost in Slack.
I know, but like it is notifications, and that's most of the time how my
I
tasks come to
don't
me is
want
from
notifications.
So I've tried to centralize a lot of it.
I think for us, what's important is being able to integrate them all. We just actually rolled out Help last week today. It's been great for us so far, and I really love the thing I hate about Jira, and it's probably just our implementation, but it seems like there could be a 2-minute task and it's going to take me 5 minutes to document it in Jira because of all the required fields. I'm going to have to go through. I'm like, oh, I need to put the new close, but whatever it is. And so I really prefer, like, kind of philosophically. And I mean, these things are like kind of like, what's your favorite coffee or wine? I think everyone's going to have something that fits them best. But for my team, we prefer a really lightweight integration and just like a rapid response kind of thing, as opposed to really planning out how we're going to reset someone's password or whatever. But having that integrate with Jira so that we can still compare those tickets with our project tickets, like Help's not the right tool for long-term projects for us. So
I
we're
also
using
think
Jira for
That
that.
will change though now that Help is part of Atlassian, because obviously it was independent and it was a sort of a Spoke and Tallow. There's a few of them, aren't there? That are those AI-based Slack chatbot ticketing systems.
Probably ML, not AI.
I think one of the biggest wins that we were looking for in considering something like Help was just to capture all of that loose data that's floating around in Slack when we have like organic conversations with people that probably should be tracked as a ticket, especially if like there's emerging issues, and it's in there somewhere, and we try to escalate up like, hey, there's an issue with X system that you own, and they're like, well, where's the data? That's a great question. So we're like,
We had a similar issue with ticketing systems that Sean had, which is that like it takes me like 5 minutes to document something because I have all these fields I have to fill out, and like if I try to put that on the user, wow, we're gonna have some problems. So what I liked about moving to a machine learning based ticketing system, it's not technically AI by the way, is that I can type organically into the messages, and then I can search also using that. And so it learns from my messages, and I can search my messages with the same efficiency. And I don't have to click a bunch of drop down menus.
I loved Spoke when I demoed them. I thought that they had a really great.
It's really fascinating. Well, and I just like I had never seen a ticketing system like it. So like I know there's other players in the field now. Help has been kind of an odd one because it's sort of like a bridge between systems, or it has been at least until Atlassian bought it. But yeah, the machine learning idea like basically undid everything I thought I knew about ticketing systems. I was like, what? You mean you don't need like a giant knowledge base and like all of these like crazy long forms in order to get good analytics out of your data? Like, nope, you don't.
So out of the people we've got here, who has a traditional ticketing system or who uses just email into a shared inbox or a distribution list, which obviously, for initial companies, obviously that's how, IT support and service requests can be, I guess, curated and managed through either a group shared inbox or just a distribution list. Anybody that's smaller have that?
Yeah, I would say that that's what we do. We've got Zendesk alongside some other like more monitoring type individual tools. We're very much of the mindset of best in class, like each tool. Now Zendesk on the same point is not my favorite or many of our team's favorite, but we integrate it with Salesforce so there's visibility and tracking from the end user's perspective. And then on the engineering side, they integrate it really closely with Notion, actually. And so that becomes the project management platform within Notion that the team's using to monitor. It's okay. Yeah. I like the idea of
I
Spoke.
think it's difficult when you combine internal support with external support, because the stuff
exactly what
for external
exactly
support
what it
is
is.
different than the stuff you need for internal support.
Yeah. So should we try and narrow the conversation to internal IT system support as opposed to external customer support? Because obviously I think Zendesk, is used very, very largely for,
Oh no, I meant that a lot of IT organizations just use the same systems that their external support.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's what we're doing right now, and it's definitely not.
That's
We have a
what you-
homegrown system, and it's not very good. We're actually looking at ServiceNow right now to facilitate both aspects.
As pointed out, I'm a really small organization, and I actually was using a Google form for them to fill out, and which would populate to a spreadsheet. But that just got too much to manage, so I actually switched to Freshdesk, which is a sub of one of, I think Dominic uses their parent company. It has a lot of other tools, but I just use the ticketing system on that one, and it's been great. Everything filters into that. What's nice is you can integrate, so I just have a group email in G Suite that then filters into that. So that's where I keep all of my tasks now. I used to use the taskbar inside Gmail to keep track of things and whatever, and it worked when I was smaller, or because I was smaller, but as we went work from home, a lot more people had a lot more issues that you have to track more closely and throughout a longer process. I'm not just walking over to their desk and saying, here's the batteries for your mouse. I have to actually wait for them to respond, so tracking was more important. So we made the switch, and I went with Freshdesk because it's free for how small I am. So pricing was the main issue with that.
Right, yeah, licensing is certainly
Systems are
something that has to be taken into consideration. I personally like Freshworks because you pay, per agent, and it's very manageable with the costs.
Unless you're on Zendesk, because then your agents are like over $1,000 a year.
How much? What was that?
Over $1,000 a year.
Yeah, Freshworks as well. Service is 1,000 per agent per year, which is not.
If you're on the top tier.
Yeah, which we are.
Yeah, no, that was our price on an old, cheap Zendesk plan.
Yeah, I demoed Zendesk before Fresh. I demoed Zendesk before Freshdesk, and their trial runs out where Freshdesk it's unlimited for the number of seats that I have, which is one guy, so works well.
Yeah.
Zendesk used to have a much cheaper tier, because I know that I demoed them once a long time ago at my first help desk job, and
depends on what products you have. I think that's the other part. Is Zendesk is a la carte, so each one of their products is a different price.
Yeah, 'cause I was working in a place that wouldn't budget any kind of proper ticketing system at all, so I was about ready to put it on my own credit card just to have something that worked.
Right. Yeah, I feel like Zendesk used to be a gold standard in ticketing, like external and internal, but it's not. It's not anymore.
Yeah. So we are on the MSP module, obviously, for Fresh Service, because that's our business model, more or less. And yeah, we are on I think that it's called the Forest plan. It's the highest plan available. We use it for internal and external tickets, because at least I'm not sure, on the MSP variant, we can have two different portals. So we have a private facing for internal stuff. We have public facing for external stuff. And that's where we manage all our assets, our customers' assets, billing accounts, G Suite licenses. Everything is tracked there, assigned to companies, assigned to end users. And that's how we use it.
All right. So we're 15 minutes in, and that's the first reference to the word asset management, which obviously you can easily do in your ITSM system. how many, like we track our assets, and initially we tracked them in an Excel spreadsheet, or not, what am I saying? Oh my God, not an Excel spreadsheet, a Google Sheet. Whew. Well, in fact, honestly, it might have been an Open Office ODT sheet that I initially did it in, and then I realized I should do it in Google Sheets, and that's worked, and it's still used. But then, of course, we do have some asset information that you can get from your ITSM, and obviously, with a lot of these systems, will allow you to push out an agent. And then that agent will check into the system and give you, auditing information, software, inventories, device information. And Freshservice would work across the internet. I know ServiceNow, I think, would only work if the machine was connected to the corporate network, which nobody does anymore. So how do other people manage their assets? Do you just do it in a spreadsheet? Do you not care? Do you use all the tools in your ITSM system?
We used to use a Google Sheet. It was a very fancy, very big Google Sheet. But and we had an asset management tool on top of that had like an agent that like scans your computer and like, the one we use was purchased by SolarWinds, so it is now known as SolarWinds. But and SolarWinds hasn't ruined it for what it's worth. I know that they're not a highly regarded company in general, but they've actually made it faster, which is good. But we switched from the Google Sheet because we were having issues as our team grew. We were having issues like keeping track of like who was supposed to be making changes to certain things. And also because with our accounting department, they wanted us to track changes that we made to the inventory and then submit those changes to them via Excel every month. Then we would just submit any laptop assignment changes or like new equipment or disposed equipment. That was a part of it that got really difficult because other than like looking at the version history, like there's not really a way to be like we just had a drop down that like if you change something, you were supposed to also go to the drop down and click change made, and it would highlight the row.
That's
And
a lot of steps and a lot of
it was a lot of manual stuff. Like we were definitely starting to get into a lot of manual things, and so we switched to using used to be called Samanage, and so I always still call it that. But we switched to using the automated one full time, and it's been okay. It's very integrated into their service desk, and they really want you to have their service desk. But like it provides more information. It's just not as responsive as a Google Sheet. I still miss the Google Sheet.
Yeah, there's something it just works. It's simple. You can get it to work, but if you do have to track changes or people make a mistake, or you have multiple people editing it and updating it, it can get out of hand and unwieldy. If you've got one office and one location and one person, then it probably works. But if you've got 10 people on 20 locations, then it's gonna struggle. So I'm curious to hear what other people are using for the asset management, how they're doing it.
So we use our MSP, but they use SolarWinds, and I have visibility into that, but we're not paying for the actually asset tracking portion of SolarWinds, but it still does asset tracking. You can export it. So I export it to a Google Sheet and keep track of it that way. But there is the agent that runs on the machines to keep track of it, and it's a really straightforward RMM solution for workstations.
The agent piece is nice because it actually scans the software that's present on the machine.
Yep.
So, and that's not something Zendesk offered, right? Or a lot of the asset managers that you see now, they don't offer that.
We keep it pretty lightweight. We're an all Mac shop, so we just use Jamf, and it just reports what the serial number of the computer is. And I made a decision a while ago not to track keyboards and mice Like, I just don't think the overhead is worth the potential loss. The only thing that's gotten a little weird is that people have gone in the offices and like taken their expensive monitors, maybe even their office chairs home. And like, we haven't always had IT in the room when that's happened. So that's a little untracked, and we're kind of relying on the goodwill of people. But again, I have a feeling that the overall loss we would experience from that might be less than the effort it would take to accurately track that.
Yeah, when it comes to most peripherals, especially non-serialized things, trying to track that, like down that way lies madness.
Yeah, yeah. And
How do you track like your network gear and stuff in the office? Do you track like your switches and all of that? You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, we do. We actually, I didn't even think about that because we touch it so rarely. But yeah, we have, I mean, like once a year we have to talk to finance about it. But yeah, we just have a Google Sheet for that.
Yeah, most finance departments will have a value that they want recorded and tracked, whether it's $500 or $1,000, depending on the corporation and what they want to do.
Our office fridges are tracked in our inventory.
What, sorry?
Our office refrigerators are
Oh
tracked.
my God, yes, yeah, because that has financial value.
Wow.
The cappuccino machine at one of our offices is tracked.
Yeah, the
It
TVs
costs over $500.
should be tracked and everything else. You know, one of the good things with Jamp is it does bring in those serial numbers, which is very useful. We used Dell Case for a while for our patch management, and we have predominantly Dell laptops. And the best part of that system is the agent on the computer would report in the serial number, and because it was a Dell product reporting on a Dell laptop, it would also bring in the warranty information. So
Nice.
we could easily run a report and find out which machines were running out of warranty. So, you know, it was easy for me to say to finance, you know, next year I've got 60 laptops going out of warranty. You know, they've been around for more than 3 years. We should budget to replace them. And it also meant that as I like 2 months before our laptop was going to go out of warranty, we would email the user and say, is there anything wrong with your computer that we, you know, can get fixed? And they would say, oh yeah, the track button doesn't, you know, the trackpad doesn't work, hasn't worked for, you know, a year, but I never bothered reporting it. It's like, well, you know, we're going to get that fixed before the warranty expires, because even if we give you a replacement, you know, at least when we give that computer on to a non-profit or a charity or recycle it in some way, it's going to be a working machine. Does anybody else track or do anything with the warranty expiry dates for budgetary purposes, or making sure you do get stuff repaired before the warranty expires?
So we use Omnitsa for our asset tracking, and I know that there was a valiant effort to try to track deployment date and like purchase date and things like that to have it definitively in there, but it's kind of become a best effort thing because there's so many hands that touch it at any given time, and communication over processes breaks down sometimes. But the idea was there for sure. We're obviously a larger company now. A couple jobs ago, when I was doing help desk for like 125 people, I was doing it on a Google Sheet, and yeah, just tracking purchase date and keeping an eye on that manually because there were few enough.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the purchase order integration for Freshservice, which is announced for beta, which will definitely help track those purchase dates and warranty dates, because, well, you know the purchase date for this device, and you can track down the serial numbers in there as well, and that's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah.
Leasing definitely made a difference too, because you had a guaranteed return date.
Yeah.
We actually went the other direction. I did an analysis with finance a couple of years ago. We were buying extended warranties or Apple Extended Care, which is around 10% of the cost of the machine, and we'd use it for less than 10% of our fleet. So we realized it was just a waste of money. And I've had quite a few people, especially finicky developers, that are super opposed to getting the machine. Some are on 4 or 5 year old machines because that's what they like, especially with the bad keywords that outlined for a while. And they'll put up with problems like, oh, the escape key keeps falling off, but that's okay. I don't care. I want my machine. The headache of switching over, even though I promise it'll be easy, the headache of switching over is just more than they want to deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen that. We had a developer, he had a Mac that was 5 years old. It's like, oh, we want to give you a new Mac. He says, no, I like my Mac. I just want a new battery. It's like, what? You don't want a new 16-inch Mac? He says, no, I like the one I've got. And we were very happy.
For developers, this is also a thing of, hey, I need to get my developing environment set up again, because you can't take the image, especially now that you can't take the image from your Mac to the new device with you that easily anymore. So they just don't want to switch there because it works and it's fine. So why switch if you would spend a week to get your stuff right? I'm thinking of you, Colin.
Yeah.
Does anybody use an asset management tracker that they track more than just like we talk about workstations, switches, stuff like that, but being the one only IT guy, I also have to track cell phones. We have company cell phones still. We're not a BYOD.
Yeah, we have tablets and hotspots and cell phones.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
and
I have
we use
multiple
special
spreadsheets.
services. Yeah, we use like Dominic, we use special services as well, and there's a lot of those categories in there that kind of you go in. I mean, it's still a very manual process, which is a pain in the butt with those mobile devices, but you know, at least they are in there.
Yeah, I think you have to, especially when, like, if you're issuing somebody an iPhone X, which is $1,000, or a Pixel 4.
Yeah, we have an iPhone 8, and it was $800 when we purchased it outright. So
yeah, it's all going to depend on what your company is, you know, what its limit is. But I think cell phones, yeah, we certainly track them. Even the more economical ones that are under what should be, you know, a trackable limit by the finance department, we still track them because we don't want to lose them. We don't want people to take it with them as a perk. You know, just like you ask people to return their laptops. I'm assuming everybody here, when somebody leaves, you ask them to return their laptops and their other equipment. You'd get them to return their phones as well.
We actually let them keep them, but we're small.
Do?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, yeah. There's only a few. Yeah.
It's already expense, and by the time they've had it, it's already taken care of. So it's like a drop in the bucket. So they typically get to keep them.
Right.
Yeah, that's what we do too. End of life and the laptop, users can just take them.
Dominic, if you're saying something insightful, you're muted.
Damn it.
We definitely take ours back, and I love having a big fleet of old, maybe not so gently loved laptops, so that the third time someone spills tea on their laptop, I'm like, oh, you just need a coaster for your bed? Here you go. It's from 2012. It has an optical drive. Enjoy.
Yes. Yeah.
So we're tracking 14 billing accounts in fresh service.
So it's working.
I just look at my assets.
So having a full service ITSM as you as a managed service provider is working very well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very important. And on the device part, we have the policy year one, you can buy it out for your 1 year device worth divided by 12 months, the amount of time you spent with us, you can buy that out. After a year, if you leave, keep the device. We're a fully asynchronous and remote company. I don't want to deal with the hassle of shipping a year-old device.
You guys have a formula for that. We don't have a formula. We just kind of like use our emotions to decide if we're going to give somebody their computer
it's
or not.
1 year. We write down everything we buy because we're an Estonian company in year one.
Right.
So everything is written down because that's how that tax system works. Yeah. in year one, which means that's why we do that in year one. And
I guess
we replace devices.
Don't do that.
Yeah, and we replace everything every 3 years.
Yeah, that's what normally our recycle or refresh scheme is 3 or 4 years, depending on the quality of the machine. But back in 2010, yes, you would have to refresh a machine every 2 or 3 years because the hardware would be so much better, and the laptop wouldn't have lasted so well, and it was really struggling. Now, with the quality of the machines, I don't think that refresh scheme needs to be so short and can be longer. You get more value out of the machine, especially for long-term stuff. But it does obviously become a a bit of an area that needs some management if you're reissuing a 2-year-old machine to a new employee. Having the ability to refresh that machine. Which is why the one thing that that we do is make sure that we get the best use out of that warranty. It's interesting, Sean, to hear you say before that you don't take out the Apple Care. I always thought you had to do that. It's interesting that you've done some analysis on how many times you actually use Apple Care. We used to have accidental damage because it was a lot easier to have it on every single laptop. It's only like another 20,
Yeah,
$30
we
a year,
also,
but
if you're
we
if you're
decided
a
to get rid of it because we
distributor,
weren't using it, and you have to work out the pros and cons of it. Is easier just to write off the machine if it gets a broken screen, or pay for the replacement.
it's also, I think it's dependent on whether or not you're a distributed team or not. Because one of the reasons that we get Apple Care for all of our Macs is so that the users can take their laptops to the Apple Store that's local to them. And also because we're almost, well, right now we're fully remote, but we don't have like an Apple hardware specialist who's available at every office, right? Like,
Yeah,
we have
in
one
our situation,
on my team because he used to work for Apple. So
when we have like issues with with people and their laptops to Apple, we actually call Apple and have a box shipped straight to the house these days, so they don't have to go in.
Yeah, we do that as well. Frequently, though, I will ship a loaner ahead of time. The process that's been difficult on that front is ability for Apple to ship the recovery box to the user, but then get the laptop back to me for redeployment. So that usually involves a call into customer relations occasionally. I've submitted an internal feature request or asked them to do it. So that's easier for the first level agents to process, but I don't know if that's picking up steam. The other piece of Apple Care, we haven't been purchasing Apple Care at my last 2 orgs and continuing in that direction, but we are providing the keyboard covers for accidental liquid spill mitigation. So that's helped a little bit for
cause
folks that need it.
overheating issues. So,
I'm sorry, Riz?
have you ever used one of those?
Yeah.
It causes overheating issues. I used one all throughout college.
Okay.
Until I drove my battery life down to nothing.
Huh.
Yeah. So I prefer not
to rethink your thing.
things like that. But in return, right, we decide that we are going to cover Apple Care. So I don't know, like, because we don't want to be trying to listening to the guy on my team he's the Apple guru. Like he worked for Apple for like over 12 years and did a lot of like hardware fixing for them, and listening to him talk about like how like the pressure must be like exact in order to like get the devices apart without warping them and things like that. Like it's just nauseating. So I'm just like, we're getting Apple Care. It's fine. It's a $3,000 laptop. Like we can just do it.
Basically, within a couple of years of me leaving Apple, I realized I was never going to open the machine again. As soon as you had to have like a special apparatus to hold the thing and another
piece. He has these screwdrivers that like will wear themselves out on purpose so that you can't use them for much longer than like a couple of weeks.
No, thank you.
Nope. Like Apple's making it really hard to like not purchase their stuff. But like I think the hardest thing is Apple stores are not everywhere, and Apple retailers are not everywhere. Like we have a user in South Dakota who I guarantee you does not have an Apple certified retailer around.
Yeah, there's not.
He gets a Windows laptop. But I feel like having mixed environments makes all of this so much more complicated.
Well, if you have a good asset tracking system, it doesn't.
I was going to say, you don't need an asset tracking system if you only have one kind of computer.
Yeah, you look at Jamf,
right? You can
or you look at
Intune
Intune.
Stuff because it's not going to get very big, but like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we track DNS settings in our service desk. We track devices, we track billing accounts, everything, basically.
I've seen those. They're like databases of stuff, and they're cool. But every time I see one, I always find a bunch of stuff that's out of date. That needs to be deleted or archived or updated, or there's multiple entries of the same thing, or like every time I've ever seen one. So, and that's the thing. That's why we wanted to use an automated asset tracker, because a lot of the ones where you like have to build your fields and stuff, somebody has to do that by hand.
Yeah.
And they're
wherever we can, we try to integrate with APIs. So our DNS for our customers, it's a new offering as well. Our cloud platform project, everything is in Google Cloud, and we're building an integration that pulls out everything from Google Cloud and puts it in the tracking system. It's a custom integration. It's a lot of work, but it saves us so much hassle in manually updating it, having old data in there, and just having it work in a sense.
We're going to change something that breaks it.
Then we have.
Then you have to redo it.
Well, we have backups.
If they don't have to, so that like we don't have to do this stuff.
Yeah, obviously.
Like we can all write our own API integrations if you give us enough time. But that's what we pay.
Well, it's part of life, isn't it? Change.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
computers could read information directly off my brain.
That would be very inaccurate.
Solve a lot of problems.
No, please don't.
I think, Rose, I think that dystopian future says, no, you don't wish they could do that.
No, that's a question. I know, like Fresh Service has a change management system.
Partition it, Sean. Like only the certain partition, the work partition.
There would be so much wrong in there. Wrong information.
So thinking about like, these service management tools and things, I know Fresh Service has a change management system built in. I'm curious, like, do a lot of people actually use that? Because in the same vein as updating tickets and things, I think updating changes and whatnot can be a pain before we just do it. So I'm curious if anyone else actually goes through that process and uses the tools.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Who has OCD for change management, either just because they're an OCD person or their corporation requires it, or who just flies by the seat of their pants and makes changes with no configuration backup, or maybe a screenshot saved in a paste bin?
We've in the past
now that we're getting a change policy and haggling over what changes were required to be using the change policy was actually more complicated than just using it, because we're just using a Slack channel.
Right. Yeah. I know some large. Oh, sorry. Carry on, Rose.
I was just gonna say, like, so it was weird to do that because it's things like restarting servers, right, and changing DNS settings, whether you're fixing them or not, right. I am not allowed to sign up for G Suite betas anymore without posting in there and getting approval, right? Like, so there's a lot of things. It does protect us sometimes. And like, I definitely know instances where it has protected us, but it also slows down the process of innovation.
Yeah, and I know some large corporations that will only review their change management like, you know, every 2 or 3 weeks. And if the change management team, approval team can't meet, or they're on vacation, then you miss a week or miss a schedule. So you could wait for,
This
you know,
job is just to
6
approve
weeks
change.
to have your, you know, your change approved. So who else does?
We use change management through Freshservice, and we started doing it because we used to just do like an Asana, kind of like list off like what we're gonna do, but no one like ever screenshot what changes or where they made a change at. So we just started. We're a small team, only 3 of us, but it's just so it's like easy for us to track if the person who made the change is sick or something the next day, and like something breaks from it. At least we can revert what happened, or at least see what we need to do from there. And it's pretty nice in Freshservice. I'm not a huge fan of Freshservice, but I like their change management a lot. So I like how it works in the improvement process for it.
We just post vendor updates there at the moment. Changes to DNS settings are tracked in tickets because they're requested from customers. Changes to hardware don't really exist for us anyway. So we just
like
track.
configuration and infrastructure though. Like changing a key GC admin setting, right?
Yeah, usually tracked with tickets as well, because that's usually a, hey, we need that changed, or we need that from a customer. It's not that we create a change management, and well, we don't have a change board anyway. Way too small for that.
All right, so we're coming up 10 minutes before the hour. We've probably been chatting away for 45 minutes. What are people's, any last minute thoughts, wishes for ITSM, things that you would change or want to be adding for any projects around ITSM?
One thing that I'd add quickly is changes as well that impact production or domains are tracked in a project management system like Asana, because that's where the developers work, because it's cheaper.
Doesn't happen in the ticketing system.
It's
right?
just...
I'd be curious to know. I'd be curious to know if there's particular categories of tools that you wish integrated with your service platforms that just don't at all talk to each other.
I just wish like there weren't so many all the time, right? Like I understand we can't have integrations for literally everything, but like every tool that comes out integrates with its own favorite set of things, right? Based on whoever they have.
CTOs.
And so like, I don't know, it's annoying.
Actually, that's one thing I will say about Freshservice is they have tons and tons of integrations, including like Autobox, and they're not like they're pretty agnostic. They do as many as they can, not just like, hey, we pick with this one because that's who we integrate with, but it's more like who can we integrate with to kind of make this the best product for you.
Right.
Not to be like a salesperson,
but a lot of companies also do that based on what their customers are using. And so if you're a prospective customer, that's not always as helpful.
Freshservice also have a really good API as well. So
yeah,
which
developing a good API is a good way.
What they don't have though is a good key management system. That is just shit.
Management system?
What? Sorry?
The API key management system. It's literally just an API key per user, and that's just not. We literally use Google Key Management to manage those API
or
keys.
Or one API token for the entire org.
Yeah, better, but all not good. I really want all those tools to have better key management. They have to. It's just not secure.
If they have an ideas page, drop a link in the Slack channel, and we'll all go to it and plus up that idea, because I think it is, those feature requests are how things change. on
I feel like we saw something
been updated soon recently.
I feel like we saw something a few months ago that was like a company that's working to like develop a standardization technique for APIs. And that kind of work is really fascinating to me because I think it needs to be done, right? Like SaaS has been kind of like the Wild West and everybody kind of does it on their own terms. But like having a better structure to how API endpoints function and which ones are available and like
some standardization of attributes and the different names.
Right. A lot of that will help with integrations because then if you write an integration for one thing that uses that, then you have integrations for everything else that uses that.
Yeah, even trying to do SAML, onboarding, auto provisioning, G Suite will call it last name, and the other application will call it surname, or will have it slightly differently.
You're mapping all these things together.
Yeah, it's like they call it office, we call it location. You call it telephone, they call it desk phone. It's it becomes.
I think that's how you'd call it in the UI, as long as the API token would be the same stuff for everyone. That would be would be an improvement.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there is no national standards of things, is there? There's no IEEE for APIs. Maybe there should be.
We could try to get that.
I think there's like small groups and stuff that are like working on that, but nothing's caught on yet. So.
At least for identity, there's the SCIM protocol, and most APIs follow that. But the entry point and the authentication into those APIs isn't necessarily standard. But SCIM tries to solve that problem of like user identity, and I think they do it pretty well.
The companies don't necessarily develop straight to SCIM either. Like Spoke, when we first got them, allowed provisioning, but they didn't allow SCIM. And so like you could provision somebody, but it was just like a basic account, no information, like no ability to sync information back and forth. And they've since added SCIM, but like it was kind of weird when we first set up SAML with them because I had never encountered SAML without SCIM before, and I was just like,
well,
what?
Yeah, I mean, I think SCIM's an interesting use case because what got SCIM off the ground? I mean, and then how are we getting vendors to actively engage with it, which has to be a critical mass question of whether or not people are demanding it. Like SSO features, like not charging for that type of thing, you have to advocate for yourself, and so that's the only way you're going to get vendors to go along with it. And I think the problem with SCIM is, and we actually have a webinar coming up at the beginning of July with Okta on this. In Tello, we get the question every day of how do you handle onboarding and offboarding? It's like, you don't want us handling onboarding and offboarding. That's the whole that whole frame of mind is wrong. So we're hosting this webinar, and I think in the first 5 hours, we got like 200 registrations for it, which is just about provisioning with SCIM, like how you do that. So I think there's a big misunderstanding of where the authentication
people don't see
happen
it
compared
as
to the
default. They see it as a bonus, right?
Exactly.
Like, SCIM provisioning is seen as a bonus, I think, when it really, from a security standpoint, but also an operations management standpoint, it should be a default.
Yeah, I guess my point
a lot of your processes are improved when you use it.
Right, and I guess my point is a lot of companies aren't thinking strategically about how they're mapping this out. So you're gonna have the same problem with asset management too in the API if there's not like this push from the end.
Really weird metaphor. But last night I was talking to a friend of mine. He is a botanist for the San Diego Zoo. And he was telling me that the zoo, not to like put them on blast or anything, but they don't prioritize the plant life as well as they should, even though they're creating habitats for the animals, right? And so he's frustrated by that. And I think it's very similar in IT sometimes. Like the company is not always prioritizing operational management and IT management, right? Like what's going to be the best for us in the long run. They're just saying like, get it done, make it work. And that's why like organizations will get to 20, 40, 60, 100 people before there's even one IT person.
Yeah, yeah. I think 40
120.
was when I joined, or but by the time I started it, they'd grown to 60. But I think I was interviewed when they had 40 people. So yeah, it's interesting you've mentioned that number, Rose. So that's obviously that would be a whole other hour-long discussion about some of those topics. Obviously, we're getting 1 minute away from the top of the hour, so we'll end the discussion there about ITSM. If you do have ideas for other topics, you can fill in the Google form that was in the Slack chat channel, and I'll put in the show notes for this. So, but thank you so much, everybody, for joining. It's been great to hear how people are managing ITSM and dealing with asset management and change management. I think maybe my New Year's resolution for 2021, or even maybe July 2020, will be having a look at fresh services change management and rolling that out. Getting more documentation, more processes in place. So it's all good stuff to learn and get a good process around and practice around. So great. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.